Today we'll be reviving and revisiting the MCO World Talk Show series. And, we've talked about a few things about what is managed care organization, what is a managed care organization, how they work, how they function. We went through some details as to what departments, what operations look like. But today we're going to talk about a little bit of a members acquisition and retention, which is a topic that is usually, if you're in the field or in the industry, insurance world, managed care organizations, you will basically hear this all the time, like, members, get enrolled in the plan, members have to be retained, what are some of the efforts, how it goes about it, as a health plan, and all the different dynamics that actually take from, an inception of a creation of an opportunity where a member is, acquired, and how to keep that member alive in that particular plan and with an active membership. But before we go there, again, we are still in the midst of the coronavirus COVID-19 challenges across all the nation and around the world. So before we proceed with the actual topic content, I want to just, again, send a greetings to everyone and wishes to everyone out there, to stay, hope that everybody's healthy, everybody's safe, that you have not experienced any challenges with this or anybody that's close to you, close to heart, close to family, who had, experienced the COVID-19. Again, prayers with everyone that has been impacted with this pandemic, close or far, it doesn't matter. I mean, everybody, all humans in this planet, wish them from this platform. I wish them personally, health and, a happy recovery if they are, a speedy recovery rather, if they've been involved into this particular situation. That's just kind of like, first message I wanted to share with everyone. Again, please stay healthy, stay safe. If you don't have to go out again until further notice, until, as long as you can, just do it. And hopefully we'll be over soon. I mean, we've gone through probably the top, and the hospital, piece of it, and the harder, item, type, formula, and time frame that we probably could have, suffered for, and now we are actually in a plateau, and hopefully we'll start seeing a little bit of a decline, and then ultimately we will prevail, and I will have actually a talk show about positive thinking and amidst of this particular pandemic. So just stay tuned for that. We'll talk about it later. But like I said, again, in short, please stay safe. Hope everybody's doing well, and keeping up, with their health, their mental state, the whole nine. And that being said, again, Hurricane H here. This is the iHealth channel and iHealth Radio. Today, again, it's MCO World, and we will focus on the members aspect of a health plan or a managed care organization. We've talked about, how the acquisition to a degree is happening in other talk shows when I discussed a little bit on the sales process and sales world and broker live and how the brokers are conceived in terms of the licensing and their certification and recruiting, training, all that, and then also in the different stages of a sales process regarding specifically the insurance world and the managed care organizations, and that's really the prepay piece where someone actually is acquired and to become a member in a health plan. And so again, it takes a lot really from any health plan to really get a member on the plan. And when I talked about sales strategy and we've discussed a little bit of what needs to be done from a plan design, from benefit designs to budgeting, to staffing, to strategy, marketing, all that stuff. That's all what it takes. It's a lot. A lot of money, a lot of activity, a lot of operational stuff, a lot of technology gets involved, a lot of people and companies and departments are are involved in the process of acquiring a member. And again, for those members that may be, or for the public, if you're watching this, if you are joining a health plan, and you probably will have a health plan at a point of your life, if not already have through the job or personal, through a plan, through a Medicaid, Medicare, or just commercial product. And if you do, that's exactly, what you're going to hear today is really just what it takes to actually have you on board as an actual member on that particular plan. So whether it's commercial or government programs, it's almost the same. There's a lot of work that gets done from a marketing, from a benefit design, from an operation design, design up before you even become a member, and ultimately once you become a member, a lot of things happen, and we'll talk about how it all works. And then also, but the most focus today in this conversation is really, for the health plan, how to maintain a member when they're on board. And so for you as a consumer or client or member, how we would love, from a plan's perspective, to keep you as a happy customer or happy client or happy member on that plan. And so we'll talk about some of the issues that actually affect why people join a plan or maybe leave the plan, and what can be done from a member, perspective, what can be done from an actual plan perspective to really take the time to bring these people in and actually have them, those members happy for the longest within the plan. So again, prior to someone becoming, on at any particular plan. So if you have Medicaid, you have Medicare, you have both, long-term care, whatever, just commercial, health plans do a lot in before, they get you into a plan. And, from an operations side, if you are actually looking at this show as an actual business person or professional in the insurance and MCO world, this is basically what it takes. And one of the topics that I've experienced, a lot, and we've discussed a lot, while, I'm in, working with the plan, is usually like, how do we maintain members, and where does that particular role and responsibility, really have to be put? Is it in retention, department? Is it in actual customer service? And what is that, and to start with, what is retention, and why does it happen, where a member actually comes to a plan and leaves the plan? So we'll discuss, some of the root causes of, members, potentially leaving the plan, and what would be some of the practices that health plans should, practice and do and deliver and execute on to maintain that a member, when they join that plan, they stay and they don't leave the plan, they stay happy. So again, the first part obviously is prior to acquiring a member. So you have to have some sort of a reason for that member to join the plan, right? And all the plans ultimately are created, as I said in the previous talk shows, to have the folks join the plan and stay in the plan. That's just the concept, right? You don't start a plan unless you want to have membership and members, and ultimately have the processes in place to keep those members and actually serve them and service them. So to do that, ultimately, you have to have all your structure. So we talked about, the inception of an MCO, how it works. They got to go to the Department of Insurance, the federal government, the states, get all the licensing, all the stuff, putting all the budgets together, getting, the networks, all the little pieces. So, I would urge, for anyone watching this to catch on the MCO World Series before this one, and hopefully you'll be able to connect the dots. So I'm not going to go back in time and revamp, and rediscuss some of these things, but I just want to move from that point on. So a lot of stuff is being done. A plan is in place. Benefits are designed, and there is an actual campaign to recruit members, or to have members join the plan. And so that's where the sales divisions come in, and the marketing divisions comes in, with all their tools and marketing plans, campaigns, whether it's direct mail, whether it's TV, whether grassroots, community events, and so on and so forth. And of course, the agents, that actually distribution channels, format that actually are designed, for these things are basically individuals that actually help someone and educate, identify, educate, and enroll ultimately members into these plans. Now, so all that good work is done. Ultimately, agents, do create the opportunity. They create the audiences. They present to the audiences, whether it's individuals, whether it's groups, and in group settings, or whether it's employer groups and or other types of forms. But now they actually have interest. People are really, they love the plans. and they want to join your plan. So whatever the plan is, this is not about a particular plan and, good, bad benefits or not. This is not about the competition piece of it, but it's more about, so someone decides to join, a particular plan. It doesn't matter which plan. If they did join the plan, that means they actually see value in that plan. And they have been told the story. They have been told that there is something that they're going to get, from this plan. So there's going to be features, of that plan design and the benefit design, and then there's going to be benefits to them and what that means to them in terms of their health and, just longevity and in terms of the health plan and insurance work. So that's the piece. So someone joins the plan. So there's an enrollment process. That's easy. I mean, an application is submitted, enrollment form is filled up, digitally on the phone through a particular platform, through a web, portal, through the government agencies that actually facilitate these things, and it gets to the plan. It gets processed. It goes in, gets approved. A member is active. We did talk, just briefly before about what happens after a member is active. They get basically a welcome kit. They get their Medicaid, their actual helpline card, and basically they get all the instructions on how to use and proceed, with their, benefits. A lot of that stuff should have been already, educated to them and given to them, clarified to them prior to the enrollment through, and via the actual enrollment process, and that will be the actual agents that help and assist with that enrollment. And so again, that's happening. So the member is already in the plan now. Great news, excellent. So the member is, on, they're expecting, the promise to be delivered. So you enroll someone. If you're an agent, you're a helpline, you have your membership, you have a group of people that actually selected you versus the others. And I mean other plans. And this, works for all the plans. So it doesn't matter which plan it is. This is exactly it is. So some of the issues that happen that I've experienced is that you bring in a lot of members, a lot of work, and members, join the plan. Members are happy. We educate them, and especially on the sales side, we're excited. We get them, pumped. We get them so happy about joining the plan, and they're in the plan. But now, what happens next? What we've seen, in historic moments and in history, at least in my experience, folks who join the plan. Some stay for a long time, some stay for a few months, some stay a few days, and there's multiple reasons why that happens. And today I'm hoping that by the time I finish this particular talk show, not only I'm going to highlight some of the reasons why people leave, but also I give some suggestion as what would be a best practice to actually help some of these or mitigate that some of these losses, as well as how to keep these members and customers very happy and staying in the plan. So member comes, joins the plan. The first thing that, or the first area that we have to look at ultimately is the engagement part, which is the education or pre-enrollment part. So the sales division, whatever that distribution piece is, which is a broker or a captive agent or a telesales agent or just a Medicare, just a simple campaign, through a direct, mailer or, direct TV or something. What happened then? I mean, did that person really, really, really know exactly what they signed up for? Were they really educated 100%, 200%, and clearly, understood what they signed up for, what their benefits would be, what different, services they can get access to, what co-pays, what co-insurances, what drugs they might have, that's covered, So the first area is we need to make sure that our staff, our frontline, our sales division, is heavily, obviously monitored and trained and pre-ready, to give the best of the best of the best to avoid any, later on problems when a member joins the plan. So the first area that we have to ensure that it's all good and solid is that, sales division. And again, personally, that's my world. And, we do a lot of work to make sure that our agents are not only certified and trained and licensed, but really coach and mentored and, customer service type of trainings, sensitivity trainings, education trainings. We give them the tools. And of course, you can give everything to everybody, but that doesn't mean they actually apply. So you have to also monitor these things. So most of the agents out there, brokers in general, like I had said in the broker world, and also as I discussed in the sales, talk shows, sales world talk shows, the different levels and how they have to do it, how they have to present understand how to have to be compliant and all the stuff. So the first part is really, the agent. That's the front line, right? That's the first line of defense, and the ultimate, person or persons or people that will actually generate the enrollment and the interest of that member to join, or that prospect to become a member. So the first thing is we have to make sure that these folks are happy and understand what they sign up for, because again, salespeople tend to be very salesy, right? So they'll pitch and they can talk, and we know that, and we've talked about that in the previous talk shows, and sometimes they can be pretty convincing, right? And so the tools that we give them, and the tools that we have to have in the front end, the front line, is that we have all the information available. All the stuff that is pertinent to the actual member's knowledge has to be given to them at the time where they enroll. If there are people that need to be in that particular presentation, where they have to make a decision, which is a spouse, a caregiver, children, whomever that is, they all have to be there. So again, we've talked about those items when I discussed the sales world and the different steps of selling, the selling process. I've introduced some of these ideas there, but and also the preparation, and when you actually try to find a business and try to identify somebody that is a prospect, and how to get to them, how to convince them and sit down in front of them and all that. So that's the first area where we have to always be very careful, because if for whatever reason, our structure is wrong, our commission structure may be, too aggressive, and people may actually just think like, I want to get more money, whatever. If the goals are higher that the company sets for these agents, they may, be forced to actually kind of just shortcut things and basically cut corners and not give the best potential compliant presentation. So we have to eliminate all those risks. So we have to minimize the risk from a structure, from a leadership on the corporate side, on the sales side, on the operations side, and the compliance piece of it from the health plan, to make sure that those folks that are out there educating and identifying, of course, those prospects, but educating them, they deliver the education piece. They actually train these folks and as to what would be the next step when a member joins, and they will give them everything. So when that particular member makes the decision is really well informed. It's very sound. There is nothing in there. There's no gaps. There's no objections. We talked about objections handling before. All that stuff has to be removed, and if it is removed, and if those agents do the best that they can, and they do it based on all the stuff that the company will structure for them. So if they have a binder presentation, some sort of a presentation that they have to use on a computer, that's excellent, right? So they have to use that. If they have to, not just sign up people because they have, a high goal, if they have the right target, for the month, because obviously sales have, performance targets, and so they have to look at that. Companies have to take these things in consideration, because if you set the bar high for goals, you are, maybe setting up those agents to actually do whatever they're going to do to meet that goal, because they don't want to lose their jobs. So that has to be, even, believe it or not, even on the budgeting, perspective, when you're thinking about it, and even the boards and the hierarchies, in any health plan, they have to think about all those things and what that impact is in terms of compliance and retention. Because do we just want, from a health plan perspective, just to have members, to just sign up and then basically they'll drop, a month later, or a couple of days later, or a week later? No, obviously not. So the idea is any plan is created to actually have membership and grow and really serve these members for the longest potential time frame. And and that's how they build reputation, they will name recognition in the brand, and people will literally just want to fall in and be with that plan. But it starts again with that planning. From the top, from the board to the senior leadership to the different departments, operations, and it's disseminated down to the actual frontline staff, and there has to be measures there to really check the balances there and make sure that everything is correct and these folks are doing the right thing. Now, if they do a good job and if they do everything properly, and now we go to the next stage, a member is actually happening to be active in the plan. when the member happens to be active in the plan, again, everything that was promised to them has to be delivered. So I kind of covered that, but I went a little bit more into it because that's a big piece. Because if anything is failing in that stage before the member enrolls, and the member enrolls because they were forced into the plan somehow because of the tactical, the salesy personalities that they've encountered or met with, we don't want that, right? That's why I always say, if you're a salesperson, you don't want to lie, you don't want to do the wrong thing, do the right thing. You don't want to sign everybody. You sign the people where the plan is right for them. You sign the people that actually kind of benefit from what you have. If you cannot benefit them, then maybe that's not your customer. You don't want to go there. So again, you have to look at their providers, you have to look at their pharmacies, you have to look at everything that they need before you actually put them in the plan. And if you did that and you followed all the rules and you went through slowly, and depending on what market you're in, if you're in the senior market, also you have to be sensitive to their hearing and their pace and slow it down. If you have to talk slow, literally like slow-mo, whatever it takes to make sure that they get that, the features and benefits, the tie downs techniques that I explained in the different, talk show, those are things that you use to actually get, a little bit of a response and make sure that you have a clear understanding that person in front of you as a potential prospect and then ultimately a member has the clear understanding of what they're enrolling for. Now, if the plan does all that stuff correctly and the trainings are in place and the certification and the agents are doing exactly what they're told, and they're not doing anything wrong, then we kind of bypass. We remedied a little bit the potential of a member dropping because they was misinformed or misrepresented or given the wrong information. So that's a big deal, all right? And that's the biggest part because once the member is in, the baton is given to the inside operations and the sales division technically push back. And they basically continue doing their cycle, finding new customer, new business to acquire. Now, that's just half of the business, right? And no plan, will survive if they just bring in members and then drop members. Bring members, drop members. And from a sales end, I can tell this and I can send this to a message to all brokers out there. Understand if you do it wrong up front, you're not going to benefit from it because if the plan is suffering major membership issues, ultimately, they might not need us as a force. They might have to make drastic moves and things like that for budgetary reasons. So we don't want to be the actual, reason why that happens in the future. If we're going to do it, we build a good platform, we build it right, and we move from there to that point on, in the right direction. So there is no incentive for you as salespeople and for the sales divisions to push, aggressive sales if they know that eventually those members going to come into a plan and they go. Now that doesn't mean that there are no sales goals. That doesn't mean that sales staff. And that's why I said for sales leadership and sales, and leadership in general, budgeting, looking at the right targets, looking at the population, the potential, the prospects, the audience, the target audience, the age group, whatever it is, depending on your product lines, you want to look at all the dynamics. And then when you set up your targets, you set up your budget, they have to be really sound and they have to be attainable. So everything else happens correctly. You don't want to, be too aggressive and you want to do like a super boom, growth overnight because that's what's going to kill, the plan sooner than later because all it's going to happen is that you're going to have a lot of push to enroll people. You bring them in. As fast as you bring them in, that's as fast as you're going to lose them. So again, advice, anyone from a strategy perspective, from leadership, whether corporate leadership in general or just the sales leadership, as you are actually thinking about your strategy and putting a plan together, you put in your budget. If you're a new plan or an existing plan, for the next year, consider all these things. Now that's the piece. So now the members are good. So let's assume that now we got this. The plan has done everything correctly up to this point. The members joined the plan. Great. Now there are other pieces that can impact why a member may not, stay. So the first one, they may just feel that they were, lied to. We talked about that. So we covered that. All the agents do their stuff. We assume right now, based on this up to this point, we did all the right stuff. We gave every perfect presentation that we can give. We covered all the items. The members are happy. They're in the plan. Great. Now the member is on. So first thing is, what happens next? What do we need to make sure that the member actually, really stays in the plan happy? Well, the first experience is everything, right? Like we say this first perception or first, impression is key. Well, same thing for a member. When they join a plan, they don't know you. And so as a plan, it's a new experience for them. It's like you go into a store for the first time, or you go into a park for the first time, a restaurant, you're leery. The first time you go in, you sit, you see the service, you see the food, the quality, and if you like, you come back. But as a member, you might have a problem. If you're in the plan, now you're already in the plan. So now you have to disenroll from the plan. You have to find other ways, and you have to and sometimes it's tricky because there are rules about disenrollment for Medicare plans specifically, but it could be also for commercial plans or any other plan, because there's times of the year where, folks can change from plan to plan or move back, to whatever, if they have Medicare or Medicaid and whatever. So the fact is, a member joins, they've been told a story, they've been told, given promises, now they want to see those promises being delivered. Simple. Any one of us as consumers, we expect that from anybody that we encounter in our life, and any service that we actually, connect with. Whether we buy, something, whether we join a membership, a club, a gym, whatever the case may be, we expect certain, things from them in return to our, partnership. So we are with them, we join them, we'd like them to actually give us, something back. So the first thing is, we trust our agents, great, but do we have a retention unit within the plan to assist? Some of these suggestions, I would say, first of all, where's that retention? Is it a sales unit, in the office that does a follow-up type of thing? And I've actually used these techniques and these groupings in different, experiences where we had internal retention teams that actually, took basically the baton from the sales, and they were kind of an extension to the sales. And what they did, they re-educate, they revalidated the information, they recalibrated, those members, and then helped them, through their first, access, process. So the first thing that a member joins a plan is they're going to want to do a preventative, visit, for example, and check out with their doctors, the primary, physician, especially in the HMO world. They have an actual PCP, a primary care physician, that is actually the one in charge of their health. So we want to make sure that they have that experience right? So that's important. And if they don't, that may generate them, an unhappy, outcome, and they may just leave, right? So we don't want that. So again, first impression, first impact, first experience in the plan is going to happen. So we passed the pre-enrollment piece, we enrolled them. Now is the actual operational experience. Do they really, are they going to receive exactly what we promised to them or not? And the first thing they're going to look at is, okay, you promised me that I can get, my first appointment, in my network. So the first thing is they go to a doctor, and the doctor says, oh, I'm no longer participating in that plan. For example, that's just an example. That could be a bad one, right? A member joins, they don't get their cards, so how can they go and see the doctors if they don't have cards? That's a problem. They want to go by prescription, they don't have a card. That's a problem. So from an operation point, we need to make sure that the operations in the plan have every single piece, an element that is required and necessary so that members' experience get, to the best and stay the best. All right? Because anything that actually disrupts them in that first experience will be a cause for them to change their mind and maybe buyer's remorse, and they move out from the plan. And, in some of the government programs, they do have means and ways to actually move out of a plan if they're not happy. Or they can just simply go to your competition. So if you're a health plan and listening, this can be the case. You can just travel and basically find yourself another plan and move on from, especially for those folks that have the ability to move from plan to plan in, pretty much along the year, within the timeframes that are designated. It can happen. So we don't want that, right? You did all the work, you spent a lot of money in the marketing and the training and the all the stuff that you do first to get that person on board. But now they're in. You don't want to lose them. You want to bring more members, make them happy, and keep your current members happy and and continuous with you. So now the first thing, they come in, they're happy if they get everything that they have been promised, right? So the first thing, obviously, this is an insurance. They want to see the doctor. The first thing, they want to make sure that they can see the doctor. And if let's say they see the doctor, they can make the appointment. One of the best practices that I would recommend, and I've recommended and I've used, is that that retention unit will actually help them set up these appointments. As a matter of fact, I even went beyond that at a point in a couple of times where I had my sales agents in the field actually set up those appointments before even the person is enrolled. There's a 1% maybe that person may not become a member, but the appointment is set, so they can always cancel it. But if they're with us, in that particular plan, or, if you're with you in that particular plan, they can certainly join, and be able to go see the doctor, and you already facilitated that the first appointment with them. They're just a customer service, assistance. Nothing more than that. It's just being, extra friendly and doing more for them. Sometimes they want to go and get their prescription. So you told them you cover, I don't know, pravastatin, and one of the statins, medication levels, whatever it is, or metformin, any of the drugs that actually typically people want. If you tell them it's covered, you show it to them on the formulary, blah, 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 but then they go in, and they discover that it's not covered unless you have certain this or the other, or the pharmacies that they thought they were there is no longer there. They think that they have access to more doctors, but the network that they saw is not really what actually is available to them. So a lot of stuff can happen that actually generate, a little bit of a mistrust, and also, not a happy feeling when a member feels that they were actually lied to, or what was promised is not delivered. So again, we want to make sure that experience is the best. Now, I did talk in a different show about Disney as my favorite, reference point, and how they create that magic. Well, health plans can have their own magic too. You are actually impacting health, and your magic is how do you take the member and give them that full, like concierge service and top experience, from the beginning to the end, and keep them happy all along and maintain them that way, right? And so again, that first, entry point at the health plan, they become with you their stuff. So the first thing is, again, we want to make sure that they know their stuff, they know how to operate. Some plans offer different benefits: gym membership, transportation, sometimes, maybe over the counter, as I mentioned before, drugs, things that they can buy over the counter, and they have some items that they can, pick up. They have certain allowances a month. But if you have these types of benefits, can they literally get those benefits the way you promised them, or at least the way it was explained to them? That's one. We have to make sure that they understand how to operate and use that. For example, if we say you have transportation, but we did not actually, on the sales, on the pre-enrollment, we never actually told them, like, when do they really have to actually, book in their transportation to their doctor. If they don't know how to do it correctly and they've missed that opportunity, well, guess what? They will have an issue, because at that point, when they're ready to expect that they're going to get a car, at 9 o'clock in their driveway, or by their house, to actually take them to their doctor, they're basically going to discover that, well, oh, sorry, we can't give you an appointment today. You have to call like 72 hours, prior. I didn't know. So that's as simple as a problem that can occur, and then the experience now is bad, because to them it's you. It's not the transportation company. It's your plan. It's your operation. It's our plan. As an MCO. If we say that we have transportation, we have to educate them on how to use that transportation, and so they can plan it in advance. And if we can even facilitate that for them, that's even awesome. That's why I said that retention team should always exist to facilitate these things, to help that member and basically hold hands, of those members through that process and get them everything they need. What's the big deal? It's like having your own, dedicated agent inside that helps you get this. So those retention folks, again, can be an extension to the sales force internally, can be also the customer service, department, or member service department. And they can have units within that are dedicated to do these things to help. A lot of these companies actually contract with helplines, have their own call centers, and they can also assist. So maybe something that can be also negotiated in the contract to provide as a service. But the key here is you want to have those things to ensure that the member gets through. If you promise some gyms, and you say, okay, you can get $50 a month to go to any gym that you want. All right, well, let's explain to them how that's going to be. So they're going to go to gym, they're going to go there, they're going to tell them you got to pay. It's like, well, I belong to this plan, and maybe now we have an issue because that gym is not connecting correctly. They might send them a bill. That's the worst thing you want to have, is that a member gets a bill from anybody. All right, because when they join you, they think that nothing is going to be paid other than what you tell them up front as co-pays or co-insurance, which is already in their card. So anything else becomes a problem, and it becomes, a potential grievance, and, a problem for you as a helpline, as an individual that enrolled them, as a department, and it's a nightmare for your star ratings and everything else. We don't want that. We want to make sure that these members, again, are happy. So those experiences, as small as they are, they're important. So again, guiding them through the process, maybe doing an outreach call, reaching out to them to help them out. making sure that they, if, for example, that's one of the things, right? They don't get access, or at least they basically have a problem getting access to what was promised, right? So whether it's transportation, a gym membership, over the counter, the card doesn't work, the system is not connecting well, it's something that they go to the doctor now, and the doctor says, well, we no longer take your health plan. Oops, why did you pick that plan? Any one of those can be generally, bad, bad, bad. So now they have the doctor is on board, but other specialists that they'd like to go to are not, because the plans network is not really up to par, and therefore now the member cannot go see a specialist because now they're limited, and the doctor does not want to recommend anybody else, or they're going to recommend them to a specialist that may not be to the level that they are really interested in. So all those can be issues. So again, to retain your member and to retain membership, we need to make sure that they're happy. Period and out. There's no other way to explain it. Okay? We need to service them with exactly what we promised them, but then the infrastructure has to be in place. So when we plan goals and we plan targets and budget for numbers and for growth, we have to budget for everything that is equally, balancing all those things. So when the members come in, that's the other thing. You put an aggressive goal and you bring in a lot of enrollments, but then your operation inside cannot match, right? Your phones are like people calling customer service, there's no response. Now I know under the Medicare and Medicaid, there are rules and regulations that you have to meet as a call center, and you have certain hold times and, abandonment rates and all that stuff that you have to manage. But if you're overwhelmed. You're actually losing the members and also actually losing your metrics when it comes to reporting to your government agency. So either way, it's a tough call. But if it's done right and all these departments are put and working together and there's a nice communication between everyone, so if a mailer goes out to members, everybody knows about it. All those little things, those things can cause a good or bad experience. And the emphasis in good, we don't want any bad, right? And so as we focus and as we plan our stuff, from the inception of a health plan and MCO to the actual execution operation of the MCO accordingly and growth of that MCO, the member is the number one, entity that we have to revolve around, right? Because without them, there is no health plan. There is no growth. There's no membership. There is no business, period and out. And so again, for customers, this is for you. We want to make sure that you, as a client, as a consumer, as a member, to get the best. And again, we talked about before how to even reach out in the community, get what members would potentially want in their benefit packages, how to operationalize it, and all that stuff. Assuming we did all that, and now the members are, we want to make sure that we hold their hands through the process and guide them through, and make sure that they get the service, and they will love the plan. So if a member, for example, has a product that has some sort of home health aid services, we want to make sure that we have agencies that can support that particular benefit. If the care managers, you have one care manager to like 2,000 members, and that's not enough. Where I'm talking about the nurses that do the care management and all the other stuff from the back end. If that's not a good structure there, and there's a good ratio balance, you're gonna have issues too, because you're not gonna be able to manage all your membership correctly. So again, probably for some of the operation executives, that may listen to this show, they may think, well, this is something we do. But I can tell you this, I've been to a lot of plans, and every plan has some sort of an experience level where, sometimes, they grow fast, or they have, good, momentum, but then operationally, sometimes things, don't function exactly. So again, this is more of some of the root causes of what people, potentially would leave. So if they're not happy, that's the main one. But then they're not happy for other reasons. Their provider wait time, they don't have access, the co-pays are high, they're getting billed, unnecessarily, they can't find a specialist, they cannot get their drugs covered on time, they cannot get stuff delivered, they can't get the transportation to the medical facility, they cannot go to the gym that they were promised to, or they have to be forced to go to some gyms that may not be what was promised to them. Whatever the case may be, all these things that are services and benefits that we promised to them may be actually reasons for them not to actually, get their satisfaction up high. We want members to be satisfied, because that's also a part of, what CMS, at least in the Medicare world, is requiring in terms of, your stars rating. So as a plan, of course, you want to be in that, at least 3.5, 4.5, or the 5 stars. If you can, that's great. And a lot of work goes to be at a 5-star plan. But the idea is it stars again. Satisfaction and member satisfaction is a big deal. Having the right operation, concept is a key. You want to make sure that the people are actually not dropping for people also drop for other reasons. They have to know that as I said, in the sales end, if you are talking to your members or your potential prospect, you want to be the only person that can guide them to a helpline if they have to make a decision, and you want to earn that right? Because if you don't, there will come across somebody else from a different plan, and somebody else from another plan may be actually not doing the right thing, and they promise them the world to you and say, no, don't worry, just join this plan, we're the same, blah, blah, blah. And then they cause them to move from plan, and then it causes them, issues in their health and their process. Not a good thing. So there's also impacts of other things. So you may have, treated one person correctly, but then somebody else within the plan is not pleased, and then that person is actually socializing with that first one at a senior center or another, gathering social place. And then what happens now, they influence them, and they basically, basically promote that, yeah, you shouldn't be in this plan, you have to move, so they encourage them to actually move from the plan. So many factors can affect, why, but the main reasons usually are cost, obviously, the providers, and the service access, the long time to wait for a specialist can be a problem. If you have to wait 3 months before you can see some sort of a specialty, that's an issue. Sometimes you have a dental network that is not as robust, or a vision network that is not as robust. And, so you'll have a good, primary network, but you don't have a good, ancillary services and additional benefits services type networks in place. So your network also has to be solid. Your communication with your doctors, if there's anything that changes, your doctors have to be trained at all times, so they already know what's happening. You have to continuously, so your provider engagement, provider departments, and network development teams have to be engaged 100%, and more, to make sure and in line with all your activities and things like that. So there's no gap in time, because providers also, they have multiple plans that they handle, and they have forms and stuff, and they have also multiple staff, and sometimes they may not have the same people in that front desk, and they change them. So if there's no continuous training, someone in that office, any particular provider may say the wrong thing to that particular patient, and therefore the patient, or their patient, your member, is not happy, and they just basically call to disenroll, or they just basically file with the CMS or state, to just move from your plan, or move directly to another, a health plan, by just enrolling with them. So we don't want that. We want to make sure that, and again, this is continuous across the board. So whatever plan you are, this is standard for everyone. Again, these are some just things that I've observed myself, and things that I've actually looked into. I had put an article before about root causes of disenrollments, and what would be some of the reasons people move. I've done a lot of surveys literally over the years, and under my retention teams, where we actually looked into like what would be the main reasons. They're pretty much standard. For years and years and years, they stay the same, right? And it's all about the operation. Again, as simple as a card not being received, and always thinking about new ways to actually communicate with your members. Now there's technology. With this pandemic that we have, obviously there's as we refer to as the new normal now, a lot of stuff that's going to happen, and I will have a different show just to talk about some of in the sales world, like some of the things that we can do to actually engage back in the community. But health plans will be looking at different aspects of ways to really make the best of the new world, and actually still engage with the folks. But again, remote, telehealth is becoming big. It was always there, but nobody really looked into it. I mean, outside of health, I mean, schools, would have school, doing school work at home was not really a big thing, right? Homeschooling was, specific, and only a few people did it. Now almost people are adjusted to it. So there are ways that we can do better, and we will probably do better in this aspect, but we have to look at technology, we have to look at resources, we have to look at ways to better our operations as health plans, and definitely put an emphasis on a retention effort that is strong, and between communication, between processes, looking at all the different things, concise things, and also don't have too many call centers and too many things, because sometimes that gets crazy. You want to have units that are really like uniform, units that are actually communicating together. Instead of having 5, maybe you consolidate them into like 1 or 2 units, things like that. The communication within the departments and to members and to providers has to be equal. And if something goes to providers, we might want to consider how's the impact to members, and vice versa. If a doctor drops, for example, from plan, and no communication goes, and people don't know, or we force them to go to another doctor that is not. That's the other thing. If we make decisions on changing our networks, for a minute, and then ultimately that doctor, the member is not happy, they will go. again, decisions that are made internally can impact how many members you will lose in a heartbeat. You could lose a couple thousand members in one shot because of a decision that is made. Is that decision I mean, first of all, we need to do the proper studies to make sure that the impact is the right one. For example, if you want to drop a product, but you have 3,000 members in that particular benefit package, and for whatever reason that decision was made, if that would have only impacted maybe a couple of members or a few hundreds of those thousands, was it really a good way to think about it that way? Again, that we can debate that in a different chapter and a talk show. But the idea is there are so many things that a health plan can do to actually control the outcome of the membership and maintain the membership, because again, you can bring 1,000 members, and if you're losing 1,000 members, you actually at still zero. You're neutral. You're not growing anywhere, and you're plateauing, and you're never going to go further up in so your objectives and your targets and your vision and your plans for the next couple of years may not meet the expectations of your board and your senior leadership. So again, it's not one individual, one department. It's a global process. Everybody is part of retention. It starts again from the front end, but it actually continues from a sales end. Salespeople are always trying to continue and maintain relationship with their members, and always touch base. 60 days, 90 days. Every 6 months. Send birthday cards, and some of those things can be done also on the retention piece in general. Send members, hey, happy birthday. Send them notices for holidays, things like that. Little things, do go a long way, and it will keep people very happy. Some people don't have someone to actually call them and say, how you doing? By you calling, maybe that's the other thing, an outreach to people every now and then, say, hey, I'm just calling to see everything is good with you. If somebody has a situation, maybe the plan can jump in and do something for them specific and help them in a particular situation. I have seen that happen before when somebody had the situation, with their family members, and the plan jumped in and contributed and helped them in a particular snug. So there are things that some plans can do that are beyond the call of duty, which is not your standard practice, but that's what makes you different. So again, look for those things, see how you can, benefit more and more and more your members, assist them, give them more. Again, look at every single thing that can, make someone as a member, you, me, as individuals, would we want our plan to actually do something for us, extra? Of course. And would we be pissed off or not happy if they do something wrong in our process, or if we were given, some sort of expectation, but it was not met? We will probably not be happy. So again, same thing goes for our members as health plans, and as leaders and decision makers in the health plan, in the operation world. We need to be, mindful of those things. And again, when you look at sales and growth, and you put your budget and you put your projections, you have to put an equal, effort in your retention, to maintain both, because you cannot do one without the other. Most, this question came up many times. I always said this: there is no growth without retention. And there is no sales without retention. If you want to retain your members, you want to grow in sales and membership, you want to also grow, your retention, and make sure that your members are happy. They're happy. Rule number one in sales: if you have a good customer, the customer is going to refer people to you. So from a retention perspective, if they're happy in the plan and everything is, running smoothly. So now things can happen. It's also the ability of the plan to handle those things and maneuver them and assist these folks. I used in trainings multiple, scenarios. I personally had this experience long time ago when I was doing a presentation at a site, and then I was doing a mass presentation to a group, and someone jumped, and said, your plan really is bad. And I mean, obviously in worse words than that. And so it was a shocker, because now basically your presentation is ruined. But I isolated the case. I asked the right questions. I walked with that lady, to a different, office. I assisted her. She came back, says, you know what, this is the best plan. They were, there was a situation, they were able to help me instantly. So again, we can change the dynamic and the perception if we do the right thing. And anybody that is in the health plan is responsible, not just the sales, not just the customer service, everyone, the healthcare units, within the plan, the managed care, folks, the care managers that are out there, they do a great job, as nurses on the health part of it, and they really, vouch, and they do go the extra mile. So all those people and groups and units within a company all contribute to the success of a health plan retention. And again, even from finance, as little as people may think, if finance sends a note, that you owe, $100, to someone that knows that they don't have anything to pay, that could be a problem. Communication, or marketing can actually send something, a letter that may not be appropriate, or the content may not have been vetted out with all the departments, and then maybe that can generate, an actual reaction, and people will be upset. A lot of things. I mean, anyone can actually impact things, in a health plan in a negative way if they don't think that they're part of retention. Retention is core. Growth is core. A health plan cannot exist without members, and members do deserve to have the best. And so if you want the best of the best of the best, and you want your members, to grow, and you have more of members, and you have them happy, and grow, because they will actually bring you more members, because they're the best, advocates for a health plan, because they have the experience. They know that you're good. Again, I give the example of Disney. We hear it all the time on the news and the shows, like, where are you going after this? I'm going to Disney World. It became almost like a tradition, right, in some areas. But the fact is, there is a reason, because they created that environment. They created that perception that they have a unique, form, and a unique world, and a unique experience. Any of us in the health plan world, in the MCO world, we can do exactly that, and actually give the best experience to our members and make them very pleased and happy. Also doing surveys with these members, doing, focus groups all the time. What can we do to make your life better? And some plans do these things, but some plans may do it at a, more frequent rate, and some plans may not. And by the way, it doesn't have to be costly, because some of these retention units can be small. It's just how you also structure them. I've had small retention units, and I've had large retention units. And, sometimes you have to go beyond, there we talk about, I think out of the box. I have my own expression. There is no box. And the idea is really, there are ways you can do. You can actually outreach to people. You can, go and meet them in the community. You can do things. Now, of course, now with COVID, we might have to think about that twice, and we have to look at different way of doing it. But technology is available. We used to say, well, the seniors or the Medicaid, members may not have access to phone, but now, they do. Everybody has some sort of a phone device, where they can access information, and be in contact. So we can help them, through these processes, and help them get the services that they need, and, communicate with them more and deliver the stuff for them. But like I said, the extra stuff is really, it's like grocery. That's the big thing. Now, of course, some programs may allow certain services to be part of the benefit, or sometimes it could be just an added value that the plan can deliver. I had one of the shows I had, which was Medley Pharmacy. It's a pharmacy that delivers, with an app. Health plans, maybe you use that service or other services that are similar. But the idea is, the more you can bring, the service to your members, the more you give them the access to what you promised them, the more the experience is the best. That's where they're gonna go. People sometimes, and this doesn't have to be like where people are paying high premiums, or only for PPOs and premium plans. Even in the HMO world, there's a slight difference really between a PPO. It's more about the network and the access. And sometimes if you operate an HMO correctly and the members are educated correctly, they can operate within the HMO network just as if they were actually in the PPO world. Because all their doctors are there, all their pharmacy drugs are covered, their pharmacy network is there. The services are there. They're not going to change you for any reason. There is no reason for them to move. There's no reason for them to think about another plan. If somebody sends them, any mail into the house, they're not going to think about it. Now, one of the main reasons that actually also can really, really impact the membership tremendously is fluctuations and changes in the benefit design year after year. If you're not steady, well, that's a problem too. Because when you design your benefits, you want to design them and you have to maintain them. So again, doing the right structure, the right studies, the right actuaries upfront, and building your budget from the inception correctly. All the structures that you put in place have the impact later. It's like a ripple effect. It's a drop here, and then you have all these little waves that actually form later. We don't want that. We want to make sure that we have a steady flow and everything we do correctly. Because if you have the best package today, next year, and then all of a sudden the following year, 3 years later, you have X amount of membership that you got to, but then you take everything that they joined for, guess what? They're going to go to the next plan that actually has exactly that. And so you did all that work and you basically pour water in the sand. Not a good, smart move. So again, something to consider, for sales leaders, for operation leaders, and for senior leadership, as you're planning your health plan, structures and your health plan operations. These are things to consider. Again, I have been involved in these stock operations for years. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I've seen all the different scenarios where decisions can be made that sometimes make or may don't make sense, and we can debate that. But at a point that may make sense for a particular reason or financial reason. But had they been kind of taken care of upfront, or at least being pre-planned, or at least there was some sort of vision in advance to see like what that impact would be. So don't think about a year, 2 years. 5 years from now, have a bigger master plan. Look at all the impacts. If we do this now, do we want to go up, and then drop, or do we want to just keep steady, and a good plateauing, being able to give stuff give a good combination of benefits so people are happy, and then you'll have your membership grow steadily and happily, and they will continue being your members, and they will promote your plan and promote your services. And again, that's the other thing. Again, not just your members. You have other clients, your doctors also. They have to be paid in time. They have to get, their communication correctly. The system access to your authorization process has to be easy to process. Because if doctors are not happy, they might actually, influence people to actually move to another plan because they just don't want to deal with the plan's operation because it's a nightmare to them. Again, those are things to consider as well. That's the provider piece, right? Even from technology, if you keep sending stuff to them that is, too much mail, sometimes that can be a nuisance. That's a problem. You have to look at all the different things that can take, someone the wrong way, and that can have an influence on the decision making of your members. And again, it can be from the direct impact from your operation, or it can be from a third party, connection through your services, so your providers, your pharmacies, and other, units that actually, interact with your membership that may have the impact. Now, even we talked about transportation earlier. If your transportation driver company, so whatever company you use, to take your members from, their home to an actual provider, if that particular company uses, I don't know, bad drivers, or they're not really, very courteous to your members, that in itself, as simple as that can have a bad impact on people. They don't care that it's the driver. They just know that it's your service. They don't know that this company X or driving, the taxi company or limo company. They just know that's a health plans company. And so when they think that way, they just, basically attach that to you as a health plan. Done. And their decision is made, and they'll talk to some, you don't need this plan, there's too many choices out there, let's move to another plan. And at the first, opportunity to do it, and then people get savvy. Sometimes there's ways to actually, get off any plan any given time because they can just basically call the state, call the feds, and complain. And the ultimate result would be like they're going to move them from that plan because of their satisfaction, and then it becomes a flag on you, and it impacts you. And now operationally, you have to do a lot more to clean up that mess, and you don't want to do that. So again, you bring in, vendors. Due diligence. You have providers, do the process correctly, education with them, continuous education with them, make sure the system's out there and capable to actually connect, in a good way, in a better way. And so there's, if you have a bureaucratic process, try to, cut it down, limit, how many processes you have in place. So process improvement is big, and it is important, it's continuous. You always have to look at new ways to improve things. If you do it correctly, you will succeed. If you think about all these items, you will succeed. Now, I'm putting a lot of information in less than an hour, but really there's more. We can talk hours and hours and hours, and we've had meetings and strategies, sessions, with multiple brains in a room, to try to figure these things. But I can tell you, retention is as simple as having a team that is dedicated, that coordinates with other units within the operations, make sure that your operations are good and they have an actual retention-friendly approach. They have to consider every single member as a valuable member, and they have to make sure that every member that joins the plan is not leaving the plan, because they will be happy. And if you go with that same vision and mission, you will actually succeed as a plan. And if you are leaders, if you're presidents of a plan, you're a board of a plan, you're an executive team of the plan, that's what needs to be, on the discussion table when you're actually meeting and strategizing, whether you're actually doing an inception to your new plan or you have an existing plan that you're actually looking at how to improve that plan's enrollments and growth and how to maintain your members happy. Okay, you want to have the lowest, disenrollment rate. You don't even want to have a disenrollment rate, and let alone you want to have a rapid disenrollment, which can happen within, the first week or 2 weeks or 1 month or 2 months. Because really, if a member is happy past the first experience, experiences, they're not going to go anywhere. So the first month, the second month, just like, when in the crime and law enforcement, they said the first 48 hours. Exactly. So the first 48 hours, first week, first month, when that member interacts with your services, if they're not given what they've been promised, if they see something wrong, they will consider moving away. Unless they have no choice. But frankly, in the world of Medicare and in the commercial world, they do have options and they can move out. So even in the Medicaid world, they can drop. The other thing is you have to put processes, for example, for people that have Medicaid, have services that help them actually maintain their Medicaid. Look at options to help them with it. Whatever state you are, you can do these things. There are agencies that do these things, or create your own departments or some sort of a liaison with your local state, and local city agencies to help them, maintain their Medicaid, status alive if they have, these are Medicaid dual folks, for the Medicare space. So again, I'm coming to the end of the hour here. I bubble a lot, I talk a lot, and I try to crunch in quite a bit of information in a little time. So, and I hope that some of this is practical, and whether you're listening as somebody that has an inspiration, an ambition to go to the management level, there's something that you can consider. If you are actually in executive decision making, this is definitely something and points that, if you haven't already considered, please consider, or at least listen to them. And that's about it. So thank you very much. And thank you for watching the iHealth channel, listening on the iHealth Radio. Hurricane H here. And we'll talk at the next talk show. We'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.